morning, everyone. It's the first panel of the day, I suppose, or it's the second one, I don't know really. What I'm going to quickly do, because we don't have much time and it's quite a large panel, Sandeep, why don't you start introducing yourself? We go this way, yes, right? A couple of words about yourself and what you represent. Just switch it on.
Hello? So I'm a partner at Lightbox. We're a venture capital firm. We focus on early stage consumer tech businesses. Been doing this for about 10 years in India, formerly under a brand called Sherpalo, where we work together with Kleiner Perkins on investing in consumer tech businesses as well. We invest very early. We tend to be the first institutional investor in a business and work closely with the teams to build and grow them.
Hi, morning everyone. My name is Rahul Khanna, and about 9 months ago, I launched the country's first venture debt fund. So what we do is we provide debt to venture capital-backed businesses. So many of the folks here who provide venture capital, we typically partner up with them and provide debt to companies that are growing very quickly and are traditionally not serviced by a bank.
Good morning. My name is Shrenik Khasgiwala. I work for Brand Capital. It's part of the Bennett Coleman company, and I lead a business called Brand Capital, which is basically a venture arm for Bennett Coleman. And we have a very interesting format. Bennett doesn't sell all its advertising, so we take some section of the advertising from Bennett and we treat it as capital, and we invest it like a venture capital fund would. And we work with brand-centric entrepreneurs. So wherever entrepreneurs have consumer or brand-centric ideas, we help in scaling those ideas and creating demand for new products and new categories.
Okay, I'll introduce myself in the last, Nupur. She's very important for us. She's the person who funds us.
Hi, my name is Nupur Garg. I work with the IFC, that's the International Finance Corporation. That's a part of the World Bank Group. IFC is a DFI and a provider of capital both directly into businesses and through intermediaries like banks, non-banking finance companies, PE funds and VC funds. I am part of the team that invests in funds, and I lead the business for the region.
Hello everyone, I'm Neeraj Gupta and founder of Merucaps. Just to give a brief introduction, started in the year 1999 with a small garage, and after that in the year 2000 went on to start a staff transportation business. 2006 we launched Merucaps, and now, so to say, we are an urban mobility company wherein we have staff transportation, meter taxi services, tourist taxi services. So that is a complete solution that we are providing as far as urban mobility is concerned.
Hi, I'm Meenakshi Sundaram. I'm co-founder of IDG Ventures India. So we've been investing in India since 2007. So in the last 8 years, we've invested in 40 plus technology companies, which is consumer tech as well as enterprise software side. Some of the notable names are Myntra, Lenskart, FirstCry, and similar companies.
I suppose the audience is mainly consist of entrepreneurs, is it right? You raise capital now or later. So how many of you are you looking for capital now? A whole lot of you, right? So I don't know how many, but we'll keep a count somehow, and then at the end of this panel, I'll ask for a count again, and how many have decided to defer your fundraising. Okay? Sandeep, you have been an early guy in the venture capital scene here. I remember you in the early days of the internet in the 2000, 2001, when you used to do the rounds and you used to come from Silicon Valley. What has your experience been, and how the ecosystem of venture capital and the entrepreneurs evolved?
Yeah, it's funny. We went out to raise our new fund in 2012 or 13, and then we had our recent LP day, and we put up a slide and said, this time it's different. And interestingly, under it I said the same thing in 2005, I said the same thing in 2009, I said the same thing in 2013, I said the same thing now. So This time it's different. And, but the reality is this time, the ecosystem has developed in terms of funders. So you have people at the earlier stage, you have angels who've come in. All of that, when I came in 2005, I remember at that time Sasha was just setting up a small group of people to do Mumbai Angels, and that was just getting going as an idea. People were starting to think about this. I think that the angel ecosystem in India has definitely developed. I think your later stage ecosystem has evolved. I think the labor pool has broadened. I think having access to talent across a variety of companies, people are leaving, and unfortunately for us, our companies and going to start new businesses. And one of our biggest challenges right now as investors is finding talent for our companies. One of the things we don't struggle with at all is finding business plans. So, you know, I think the acceptance of entrepreneurship, the success has kind of materialized. It used to be that, you know, the poster child was a services business and an Infosys. Today you have great internet and tech businesses, whether it's been InMobi and what they've done there, or whether now with the Flipkart or Myntra, and some of the businesses that have shown that you can actually build technology-driven companies here. So I would say that the breadth of both funding and talent has evolved significantly, such that we actually now have a very vibrant ecosystem. And I think there's a recognition that technology-driven businesses are the best way to address some of the opportunities in the market. And so I think that's a big shift.
Would you have a set of any kind of advice or any kind of structure which people should follow? Because most of them seem to be looking for funding, right? I'm told you have a couple of slides, so why don't we start with that?
Sure. Yeah, we can.
Can you put up the slides, please? Is there anyone there to put up the... They know which one to put.
Yeah, I think they... Is there a way to click? Or do I just tell you and you'll click?
Do you have them now, or?
It's up.
Oh, yeah, it's
all right.
there.
So, look, I mean, I think the way we went about this, and we were just thinking about how do you make this ecosystem work a little bit better was I guess, one of the original thoughts that came about. And so, kind of went back to the question of why did anyone decide to start something? I think people generally decide to start something because they're sick and tired of what they're doing, and they really believe that they have something in them that they want to go out and change the world with. And so, that's the genesis of where we're all coming from. I think, quite honestly, whether you're sitting there and looking to raise money, or whether you're sitting here believing that you're going to fund something, we're all a little bit crazy and believe that we can see the world a little bit differently. And so that's why you get into it. Now, if you could just go to the next slide. Yeah. So usually what happens once you do that is you start tinkering. You start messing around. You start saying, okay, let me prototype this. Let me see if I can make this. Let me see if I can get this widget to work. Let me talk to a couple of people. Let me go out there and try to actually find if there's a market, if there's a need, and if there's an ability for me to actually build this business. I can click on this. Brilliant. Thank you. Eventually you hit a wall because you realize that, okay, cool, I've got my idea, I'm getting going, but now I need someone to code this thing, now I need someone to sell this thing, now I need some office space, I need all these overheads, and all of this stuff usually translates into something that unfortunately, we on this side seem to focus on and say, look, now I need money. So you end up in meetings like this and in conferences like this trying to say, okay, how do I go do this? And you have a couple of options. Option one is you're born rich, which means great, so you don't really need to bother coming here, and you're actually probably not here in that case. Option two is you talk to Rahul. Debt. Debt is actually probably the best way to go about it. And so, debt, I mean, when you consider it, actually, equity is one of the most expensive forms of capital. And so it would be great to actually talk to him and see if he'd be willing to extend debt, or people like him, people on the debt side. Option three is you put on your best puppy dog face and go around to friends and family and start to beg for some money and say, hey, look, hook me up, help me out. I just need a developer, a sales guy, and you try to go. And actually, you probably want to do all three of these before you finally decide to come over here and talk to venture capital. And the reason being is, when you start talking to venture, you're really looking at now sharing your pie. And a large part of that is saying, look, you're going to part with a part of that original reason why you decided to go do this. You had a vision, you wanted to break through. Now, sharing the pie is not a terrible thing as long as you understand the ecosystem that we operate in. So as Mahinder pointed out, Nupur is sort of a step higher in the evolutionary chain for us, where she actually gets money from another group of people who get money from another group of people. And so we all are living in this chain of promised returns back to other people. So what you started out with as a pure, holistic, clean vision of I'm going to change the world has now become a returns-driven game. And now you're about, look, I got to give someone money back. She's got to give someone else money back. They've got to give someone else money back. So suddenly, we're now talking about how's your revenue growing. And we focus on these things, which the reality is you have to build a good product to grow the revenue. We all understand these things, but you're stepping into this game. So to navigate it a little bit better, I think it's important at the beginning to align on what success looks like. Those are both apples, they're just differently sized, and so as a result, if success to you means the bigger apple and success to me means the smaller apple, we'll have a misalignment on how we're approaching the business. So I think spending time at the beginning with whoever you're dealing with and however you're approaching it, aligning on what that future looks like is really important. I also think it's important to see if you can work together. I mean, this is the sort of general mantra, right? You have to experiment, fail, learn, repeat. As you go through that cycle, whatever you think your business and market opportunity looks like today will be different in a period of the next week. In all likelihood, someone else will raise 10x the amount of money you have, and now suddenly you have to change and think about the world differently. So make sure you can effectively evolve that vision with someone. And to do that, quite honestly, it takes a lot of communication. So now all that time and energy you're spending on your product will also now involve communicating. And my advice is communicate as much as you can face to face. I think email, SMS are great, but to the extent that you're having these evolutionary discussions on your business, it's important to find the time to communicate with each other. So look, to me, once you decide to get on this funding cycle, you're on the treadmill. And now the game starts, and you're really going to have to be ready for that. And so it's I guess an exciting idea to say, look, I raised a bunch of money and I'm going to do this. It's an equally exciting idea to own all your company and build it and go in a certain direction. Whichever way, you're getting on a treadmill. And so be aware of that. And I guess at the heart of it all, don't forget why you decided to start this. I think, like I said at the beginning, we're all a little bit crazy. And if you're sitting in the room, you, like I said, have a different view of the world. And so keep that in mind as you go through that journey. And just remember these other aspects of it as well.
Thanks, Sandeep. We'll take questions at the end of the session, so I just hold back. Rahul, Sandeep raised a point that equity is one of the most expensive ways of financing, right? And you are in the business of actually selling the idea of entrepreneurs taking equity. So how would you convince someone who says, no, I won't take equity, but you really like the idea, and you would say you want to participate with him, right? So, and he says, no, debt is better. Then how would you convince him that? Yeah. Why should he talk to you?
Yeah, so I think that debt and equity are equally important in any business. I think it's just a matter of which one you lead with. In many cases, when a company is very young, neither does the entrepreneur know the true value of the business, neither does the investor. At that point, the only currency that the entrepreneur has is equity. So that is all that he can offer somebody who's willing to take a bet on him. Now, it is expensive, as Sandeep pointed out. There is an expectation of return that Sandeep has, which he has to provide to Nupur, and Nupur has to provide to her sponsors. So I think it is, but it is also risk capital. And in a lot of ways, what many of you are trying to do is reinvent the world. Now, that's risky. Unfortunately, debt is not equipped to handle that kind of risk necessarily, or at least the way we think about venture debt is really to partner with venture capital funds and broadly reduce your cost of capital. So as an example, rather than raising $5 million, we'd come in and say, look, let's partner with a VC. We'll do $1.5 million, they do $3.5 million, everyone's happy, you've still got $5 million in the bank, but now you have a lower cost of capital. Or we might say that, look, you're raising money for 12 months, maybe we can add to the amount you're raising, so instead of raising 5, take 7, now you have one more chance to pivot, maybe you have a little bit more time to raise your next round of funding. So I think it's a healthy combination of debt and equity. It's not a either or, it's some combination of both as you scale. Now, as your business gets more predictable, as we get more comfortable with your cash flows, we might actually take up our percentage of debt into the company. So if you're a very early stage company, we might say, look, we'll write 20% of the round. But if you're a late stage company, maybe we'll do 50% of the round. So I think in a lot of ways, venture debt is a complement to venture capital. It is not a substitute for equity.
Right. I think, Shrenik, you probably have the largest portfolio as Brand Capital, probably. All of us put together, we have such a large portfolio as Brand Capital has. I don't know if you're aware, I started Private Treaties, right? So you're a predecessor to that concept. Now, he also raised one very important point, Sandeep, in his slides, that you need to have a shared vision. Then how do you manage? Because the popular thought here is that you give media and then you forget about it, the venture, right? How many companies do you have in your portfolio? 1,000 plus?
700.
700, right? So a huge number to manage. And if we ask Nupur that we have 700 companies in our portfolio, would you lend us money? And she will say, of course, go and take a jump, right? It's just too big a portfolio to manage. And how do you communicate with your investee companies? In the sense, as Sandeep rightly said, most of our time is spent in actually communicating, speaking, talking, sitting with the entrepreneurs. So how do you manage such a huge portfolio in terms of creating a shared vision, in terms of communicating with your investee companies?
So, it's not easy, I think. You've raised a very important point. Really, how do you engage with so many entrepreneurs at the same time? It's partly capacity. We have, I think, 120 people, which is perhaps larger than, all VC firms put together, maybe. But we also have a lot of senior people. Remember that we also have a very large organization which we sit on top of. So just our go-to market as Bennett Coleman is about 2,500 people. So we work with 25,000 advertising businesses. So this is really a subset of that. So we have very large mainstream engagement with the ecosystem and with our partners. We also have a lot of innovative platforms in-house. So what we did over the last 2 years, we had the same problem. Like, how do you really, even if you were to serially meet all your last portfolio companies, you remember every year we sign about 100 more. And for those we have, you can imagine how many prospecting meetings. So there's a huge quantum of engagement which is going. Our question was really to ourselves, how do you do this innovatively? And what we did was very interesting. So we set up an internal sort of mentoring panel where we would call a lot of people with acclaim. So I'd call Sandeep once to serial entrepreneurs or venture capitalists or founders of ad agencies or CFOs of large companies, or I had Gaurav there a couple of times. So we just call them on a certain day and we call our companies and they just go one by one, and we have this very intensive sort of mentoring session where they say, well, this is who I am, this is my dream, this is how I'd like to change the world, and this is where I stand, this is how I'm going about it, and and they all look at it simultaneously to say, well, this is how we should be doing things, and then we just go over and over again with so we've actually done this in an innovative way because we opened it up to the ecosystem to say, okay, come participate. And you will learn in the process. Maybe you're working with other companies and we can help them in the process. So it's really this large open innovation platform that we create, and I think it's just huge impact for us.
Yeah, I think many of the people here would seek media, right? It's a kind, is what many believe, and sorry for being so blunt, that's an easy way to raise capital, right? That you get capital, you get media from Bennett Coleman, and you're rolling, right? So, how do you? Most of the entrepreneurs I've spoken to have taken media from Bennett Coleman. They believe that's the easy way, and then the early stage, then they approach the VCs that I've got 100 crores worth of media, right?
Yeah. So everything has its proportion and everything has its place and its time, and it's a very beneficial medicine, but you just keep eating it all the time, it's not going to help you. So a part of my time, a large part of it is just spent in trying to figure out the algorithm of where we should be really engaging. and which is really to say, you know, if you're sitting on a 12,000 crore venture investment portfolio and we want to grow it further, really what places in the ecosystem should you be really focusing on? And we keep changing that all the time, so we keep very close watch on, you know, what's going on in the consumer space and where is the innovation coming and who's succeeding, not succeeding. And we have a very dynamic strategy on, you know, where we should be deploying that money. Of course, we respond to entrepreneurs and, you know, wherever people feel that they will benefit from it, we're happy to engage and figure out if really that is the case. And for us, I mean, we are, I don't know if you know, but we are GPs, we are also LPs. So now we're also working with a couple of venture capital firms where we've turned LPs. And we use them also very actively to engage on ideas and figure if, you know, these are the right places. So we are also changing our investment game. So it's not as, I mean, it's not as transactional as it was in the past. And we are also we're stepping up our engagement with our portfolio companies and also working on, you know, how we can cross-pollinate ideas and JVs within our portfolio companies to actually make things happen rather than just saying, well, you know, we want it, here it is, and then we forget about it. I mean, that's changed quite a bit now.
Thanks, Sharon.